Hellenic mythology is perhaps the most famous collection of ancient folktales in the world. Like many of their contemporaries, predecessors, and successors in the history of humanity, the ancient Greeks possessed a vibrant and lively mythological tradition. Both pan-Hellenic myths like the Iliad and Odyssey, and regional myths like those of Theseus, the hero king of Athens, are notorious throughout the world for their tragic, comedic, and epic aspects. In this series, we hope to tell the most well-known and famous of these myths in colourful and eclectic detail. Before embarking on this epic journey, we must begin with the closest thing the ancient Greeks had to a cosmic origin story, the Theogony. Originally written by an archaic village sage called Hesiod, it tells the most coherent story of the origins of the cosmos and the birth of the Greek gods. From the beginningless nothing of chaos to the Titans and their war with the Olympians, every gripping detail of the Greek cosmogony is rife with intrigue and fascinating allegories. Welcome to our first episode of our Greek mythology series, focusing on the Protogonoi, Titans, and Olympians. The Theogony tells us that in the beginning there was an endless void, without gender or form. This void was called chaos, and is the entity from which the word for unruliness stems from. This chaos had no beginning or end, but at some point in time it produced the first of the Protogonoi, the primordial deities of Greece that were the foundations of their world. The first deity was Gaia, the personification of the earth herself, who possessed powers of giving life and fertility to the whole world. Alongside her came Nyx, or the personification of night, who was accompanied by Tartarus, the depths of the underworld, and Erebos, the manifestation of darkness. These deities formed the world in which we live, as well as the underworld beneath it and the night sky above. Hesiod also tells us that Eros, the Greek personification of love, was also born from chaos. Others, however, claim that he was the son of a goddess yet to be born in this story. Now that there was no endless void, it was time for the Protogonoi to get to work. Nyx and Erebos joined and gave birth to the Ether, the primordial god of the upper atmosphere, or the firmament. They also gave birth to Hemera, a daughter personifying daytime itself. Other children included Charon, the ferryman of the dead, a daughter river named Styx, and Thanatos, the personification of death. Nyx also gave birth to many other minor deities that would bring hardship to humanity, such as Eris, the goddess of discord, and Nemesis, the goddess of punishment. Ether and Hemera came together to conceive Thalassa, the deity of the salty sea. Gaia gave birth, of her own accord, to many other Protogonoi, such as Uranos, the god of the sky, Orea, deity of the mountains, and Pontos, the god of the primordial sea. Of those three, she chose Uranos as her husband, and together they gave birth to the next generation of deities, the Titans and their siblings. Uranos and Gaia had 12 famous children, the Titans, who each had their own powers and domains. One was Okeanos, the deity of the ocean which surrounds the earth in Greek mythology. His sister was Tethys, the Titaness of fresh water, who married Okeanos and gave birth to the 3,000 rivers that appear in Greek folklore. Another Titan was Koios, the Titan of the axis of the sky, who married the light Titaness Phoebe. This couple gave birth to 2 daughters, Asteria and Lito. Another Titan couple was Hyperion and Theia, both associated with the light of the sky. The two gave birth to the sun god Helios, the moon god Selene, and the dawn deity Eos. The Titan Krios of the constellations married a daughter of Pontos and Gaia called Eurybia, and together they produced Pallas, Perses, and Astraios. One of the strongest Titans, called Iapetos, married a daughter of Okeanos called Clymene, or Asia, and gave birth to Prometheus, Epimetheus, Atlas, and Menoetios, all of whom would become more famous than their father. Two further Titanesses were Themis, the goddess of divine law, and Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory herself. They took no husbands amongst their brethren, but would later join the Olympians. The last pair of Titans were Rhea, who personified fertility, and the youngest, Kronos, who represented time. These were not the only children of the mighty couple. From them also sprang forth the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants known for their mighty smithing abilities. They also produced the Hekatonchires, gigantic beings of 100 arms and 50 faces, whose strength was tremendous and unstoppable. All these children were feared by Uranos, who chose to hide them in the depths of Gaia with villainous hatred. There they languished, while their mother wept for their lives. Eventually, Gaia went to the depths of herself and found her children languishing between her and Tartarus. She begged her children to overthrow their father as payback for his arrogance and abuse. But they all feared their brutish father and his wicked ways, except for the youngest, Kronos. Gaia gave Kronos a diamond scythe that could strike down a deity and told him to hide. Eventually, Uranos went to the depths of Gaia, seeking the love of his wife. But Kronos captured him and struck him with the diamond scythe. The blood of Uranos poured forth from the wound and fell on Gaia, who produced wicked creatures like the Furies, who torment wrongdoers, and the nymphs of the trees. Parts of Uranos also fell into Thalassa's domain, where they gave birth to the goddess of love, Aphrodite. Aphrodite was born near Kythera in southern Greece, and set foot first on the island of Cyprus, where her steps produced beautiful flowers that still adorn the island. She is said to be one of the most powerful deities, feared by all but a few of her fellow divines, who have other priorities in life. With Uranos defeated, the Titans broke free and reigned over the world in their own golden age. It was during this time that many more deities were born from Pontos, such as the old deity known as Nereus, who took a wife known as Dorida, with whom he conceived all the water nymphs. Under the regime of the Titans, the world knew peace. However, Kronos was restless, because Uranos had foretold that the time god's spawn would overthrow him, just as Kronos had overthrown Uranos. The young Titan feared this prophecy, and hoped to avoid it. Thus, when he married his sister, Rhea, he devoured all the children they had as soon as they were born. In this way, he ate 5 of his children, Hades, Demeter, Poseidon, Hera, and Hestia, who stayed alive and began to grow inside Kronos' belly. Much like her mother, Rhea could not bear this tragic fate for her children and devised a plan to save her youngest son, Zeus. Rhea dashed to the island of Crete with the help of Gaia and Uranos, and during the night she gave birth to her son, Zeus. She left him there in the care of the goat Amalthea, the Earth Mother Gaia, and some shepherds, while she put a stone in baby robes and brought it to Kronos, who proceeded to eat a meal rich in minerals. Zeus was reared by his hosts, and his cries were hidden from Kronos' ears by the local mighty warriors known as the Koritai, who smacked their shields to mask the infant's wails. When Zeus came of age, the young Olympian went to his uncle, Okeanos, who married him to his daughter, the wisdom titaness Metis. His new wife gave him a plant that Zeus put in Kronos' wine. Then, disguised as a wine servant, he brought a cup to the feared Titan. Kronos drank it, and immediately became sick, beginning to puke fiercely. First came the stone he had eaten, and then Zeus's 5 siblings. Together they became the elder Olympians, and escaped to avoid the wrath of their father. Kronos' greatest fear had come to pass. His children were here to overthrow him. The looming war was to be called the Titanomachy, or the Battle of the Titans. Zeus had taken some precautions in preparation for the battle that lay ahead. Kronos had not released his siblings, the Cyclopes and the Hekatonchires, and instead kept them inside Tartarus. Knowing this, Zeus snuck into the dark realm and broke the gates open. Thus, both of Kronos' furious sibling groups escaped and joined the Olympians against the Titans. The battle was set to happen on the Earth herself, with the Olympians camping atop Mount Olympus and the Titans stationed on Mount Parnassus. The Titanesses decided to steer clear of this conflict, leaving the Titan men to fend for themselves, alongside some of their children, like Atlas. The other side consisted of the 6 Olympians, the Cyclopes, and the Hekatoncheires, as well as Zeus's other allies. The battle raged for 10 long years, sundering the earth with each deific blow. During the fighting, many immortal weapons were forged. The Cyclopes created Poseidon's trident, which the god used to control the seas. They also produced the helmet of Hades, which he used to turn invisible and strike against his enemies while hidden in the shadows. The mightiest weapon they forged was the lightning bolt of Zeus. This weapon made the leader of the Olympians into the storm that was approaching, provoking dark clouds in isolation. Little else is known about the Titanomachy in terms of individual events, but we know that in the end, the Olympian weapons won the day. With the Hekatoncheires throwing endless stones with their many hands to pin down the enemies, the Olympians made one final onslaught and defeated the Titans. The defeated deities were thrown into the depths of Tartarus, forever to be guarded by the Hekatoncheires. An especially vengeful fate was saved for Atlas, one of the strongest junior Titans. He was condemned to stand on a mountain on the west of the earth, where Helios and Selene stop their chariots when they travel across the sky. Atlas was given the sky to lift on his shoulders, a fate that he was condemned to for eternity. Thus, the age of the Titans was over, and the age of the Olympians had come. After this epic battle, it was time to divide the spoils, which, in ancient Greek fashion, was bound to be a complicated affair. Demeter, Hestia, and Hera received their domains of agriculture, the hearth, and the sacred bonds of marriage without much issue. However, the 3 Olympian men had to use the method the Hellenes preferred, throwing lots. Zeus, who drew the longest lot, received the realm of the heavens and became king of the gods. He took up his residence in Olympus, where he reigned as protector of the sacred laws of society and bringer of order amongst the Olympian gods. This is why the Greeks so revered Zeus. His rule was cosmologically significant and kept society in order through institutions like sacred hospitality. Poseidon took the middle lot and thus took over the realms of the seas. He married the daughter of Okeanos, the Nereid Amphitrite, and together they had multiple children, including the sea deity Triton. Poseidon would have many other children with other women, siring another race of Cyclopes, including a certain enemy of Odysseus called Polyphemos. As for Hades, he received the shortest lot, and thus went to the underworld. From there, he ruled over the realm where all the dead are sent to go when they pass. The underworld is divided into the fields of Asphodel, where average mortals go, Tartarus, where the wicked go, and the fields of Elysium, where the virtuous rest. In addition, there was the Makarii Nisoi, or the Fortunate Isles, where the most revered mortals went after death. Also part of Hades' domain was the Land of Dreams, the land of the dream god Morpheus. 5 rivers go through Hades. Lethe, the river of forgetting. Styx, the river of sacred oaths. Phlegethon, the fire river. Cocytos, the river of lament, and Acheron, the river of woes. Souls are ferried into the underworld by Charon, judged, and then sent to the various parts of the afterlife under the rule of Hades. While the Titanomachy was over, the troubles of the Olympians were yet to finish. Some time after, many more Olympians were born, but they were to face their toughest challenge yet. Gaia was once more wrathful, because her children were trapped in Tartarus again. Thus, she took Tartarus as a husband, and together they produced the most terrifying monster of all, Typhon. This massive creature was so tall that his head scratched against the stars. His upper body was that of a man, though he had wings and 100 heads, 99 of whom were of various animals. His bottom half was made of 2 large serpent coils as legs, and he also had 200 hands with serpentine fingers. Typhon attacked Mount Olympus, causing fear and horror amongst the Olympians. Herodotus claims that the deities left for Egypt in the form of animals, a metaphor which the Greeks used to understand why their Egyptian neighbours had animal-headed deities. Zeus was as terrified as any other Olympian and fled with the rest. But after Athena chastised him, he returned to Greece to fight off the mighty beast. Olympian and Typhon engaged in a battle that raged like 1,000 storms. Zeus's lightning strikes pushed Typhon all the way to Syria, where the two wrestled fiercely. Typhon managed to take off Zeus's lightning bolts and used Kronos' scythe to strike Zeus, immobilizing him. He put Zeus in a cave in Mount Parnassus to be guarded by a brother of his. Zeus was eventually saved by the gods Hermes and Pan, regained his lightning bolt, and rose up against Typhon once more. Using the newfound powers bestowed upon him by eating sacred fruit, Zeus chased Typhon from Thrace, where they began their second battle, which raged all the way over to Sicily. There, Zeus took a giant mountain and crushed Typhon with it, forming the volcano of Mount Etna. Typhon's rage was said to be the reason this volcano has been so active throughout history. Typhon also had a wife before his defeat, a snake woman named Echidna. Together, they had many children that appear in myths, such as the Nemean lion, the dragons Ladon and Hydra, the Chimera and Sphinx, and the 3-headed guard dog of Hades, Cerberus. All these will appear in future stories, but for now, one thing is certain. The rule of the Olympians had been established in Hellas, forming the foundation of all Greek mythology. With the defeat of Typhon, a new order appeared in the cosmos. After the Protogonoi and Titans, the Olympians established their control over all of creation. After aeons of deities overthrowing each other, a semblance of peace had finally been established. The mythological world that sprang from chaos grew in number and perfumed the world with their own elements of power. Besides the 6 elder Olympians, there were now many more Olympian deities in Mount Olympus. All these deities were born after the defeat of the Titans and had their own place in the world. They essentially took over many of the functions of the Titans and Protogonoi, and ensured the world was in good order. They also created humanity, and proceeded to mess with their lives for the rest of Hellenic mythology. Thus, the epic battles we just witnessed are only the beginning of many fanciful tales. More stories from Greek mythology are on the way, so make sure you have subscribed and press the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing, as it helps immensely. And don't forget to comment. We will try to read and respond to every comment, as we want to know what you think about this video, and which videos you hope to see in the future. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.